Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm really excited about this episode because now I'm going to show you what I really like making and I'm really proud of, and that is my underground railway. Now, I have a city downstairs, if you don't know already, and I have only so much room for it. So instead of putting the rail on above ground with level with my city, I decided to make everything underground. I got that inspiration from Manhattan, where all the trains run underground and they come out from Manhattan because there's just simply not enough room above ground. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to take you on a tour of my underground railway, show you some details, a little bit more detailed tour than I did in my introduction video, and then I'm going to also show you how I made it, what I did to do certain things, and a little photo history of the construction of it because I took a lot of photographs. So hopefully you enjoy that. By the way, this is part one. This is going to focus on the railway itself, and then part two is going to focus on the train stations and how I built those. So stay tuned for that. So let's get started. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus this time not on the surface of the city, but under the ground where my model railway is. And as you can see, here is the underground railway and some beautiful arches. The whole idea behind this part is that it's set in a gorge where there's cliffs on both sides. And the model railway was carved into the cliffs. So one side is facing the outer edge, which is where the arches are. And I made some really nice arches out of the Lego bricks, the patterned bricks. And to kind of simulate this edge, kind of a stony support for the edge of it. And they are all removable. I made them removable so I can access it. I'll show you that right in a minute. So here they are. Once the arches end, then you'll just see the edge of the table. That's basically representing that the city keeps going on and there's more underground. But in that, and here we have actually a picture of the first station, which we'll get into a little later. Now, first a little bit about what supports these. So if I move over here, the way I did this whole train station is down here. The underground railway sits on a bunch of IKEA tables that sit on adjustable legs, so I can adjust it so it's balanced and leveled. And then what I did is I bought some shorter legs from IKEA. Actually, these can take about 100 pounds each weight, and I've put actually a little bit more legs than usual so I can support the weight of the top table. What that enabled me to do, these legs are also adjustable, so what that does is I can adjust exactly the height of the table so that these arches actually match up with the top of the Lego bases, and I can actually connect them. So why don't we first take a look at these segments and the side walls that I have in the gorge that face the gorge. So here we're looking at one segment. All the segments are relatively the same. There are a few that are a little bit different, like this corner piece here is a little bit longer, so it's not symmetrical, but otherwise they're symmetrical. And they have a little plate, jumper plate here on top that keeps everything together. It's basically attached to the base plate of the road or the sidewalk. So it's very, very, very rigid and doesn't come off. And half the base plate covers one segment, and then the other half covers the other segment. So to take these out is very easy. And obviously I want to be able to remove them so I can work on it. And I can show you some more details as well. So what we'll do is, to take it off, we just simply pop this plate off. And the plate is a 2x4 plate with some finishing tiles on it and a fence piece. Then we pop the other one right off. And then we can just pull the whole thing down just like that. And this is one of the segments. As you can see, on the other side, there's a little edge. That's where the table sits. Since they have adjustable legs, I can adjust it so it sits fairly snug, but not too snug. And I love the pattern I chose. They use the brick pattern, mortar brick in dark bluish gray. And then I also have some corner segments which are just 1x1 bricks. That kind of gives it a really nice pattern. I also have some little angle arches right here to give it a little bit of roundness. So I think they turned out really nice. So all I have to do to put it on is put on the inner edge on the jumper plates, and then I just slide it in right there, and it actually sits there by itself. It's easily moved, and then I would just put these plates back, and it's secure again. So it's that easy, and that's how I did my walls on the side of my gorge. And so what we're going to do next is I'm going to remove them all. And here's a look at the gorge area with the wall panels removed. So as you can see a lot more detail, which will be really cool on our tour. But in general, it doesn't look as nice when the walls are not installed. It just looks like kind of two tables. So the walls add a lot of great character to it. And I really like what I've done with them. So, but this enables me to work on the railway if I need to do some repairs or updates. So let's get started on a little bit more detailed tour. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start at the beach area and go below. I made overhead power lines. Now normally they would just be suspended by the roof, and I mentioned that in my introduction video, but I wanted to add a little bit more character to it, to the tunnel, so I did that. And this curve right here is the most sharpest curve I could make out of Lego. I used the expansions segments, the little mini segments, and I actually pushed them as far as I could. So you can see that in some areas I had to use 1x1 finishing tiles because the two ones wouldn't fit, because it is kind of a little bit on the stress side. And I used bricks here to actually hold the curve in shape. So this is about 23.5 inches from outer to outer is what this curve is, and that's pushing it in Lego. But it works, and it's held up for over a year. So I'm very happy with it. So right now the railway goes here, it goes back into the tunnel when it goes around the curve. I can show you kind of in there. And I do have a little bit of light, ambient light, but you don't really need light when in that area. So as we come around here, the only segment I did leave in was the one at the beach. As we come around here, you can see the walls a little bit more clear now in this light. And like I said, what I'll do is after I show you the tour, I'll take one of the walls out, show you how that works. And just on the thing on the rails, what I did on the rails is I used some finishing, 2x2 finishing inside, some light bluish gray. I just wanted to make it look more like concrete. And obviously I have base plates through the whole unit. Just on a word of that, a lot of them are Lego, some of them are compatible, because especially the ones I cut up, so I didn't really want to buy the expensive blocks and cut them up into little shapes. But I've used a combination of those, and that's the only place I've kind of cheated in not using genuine Lego. But if you look at the whole railway and all the volume, that is a lot of volume. So now we come up on the first railway station. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the railway station, underground station, because I'm going to go into detail in part 2. But as you can see, there's a lot of minifigures I have, and I have some amenities. They're all waiting for the train. So, and it's all lit up. I really like the way those things turned out. It's really nice. So I'll give you kind of an overall view of this one. This one's a smaller train station. It's kind of in the more rural area. From the train station, move into more underground areas, so more walls. And then as you come around this corner, we basically meet the other side of the track that's looped around in the back of the train station. And this area is what I call the train yard. This is where I park my trains. I have basically 2 trains that I park, and the yellow one, and behind it I have the white train behind that parked. As you can see, I have basically a platform there so the driver and the staff can get out. And there's a little area that they come out behind there. And I made a whole bunch of pillars. Now what I did is I wanted to basically represent a true underground setting. And of course you have to have pillars to keep the ceiling in place. So I've basically made these pillars as an engineer. My profession is an engineer. So I kind of put the pillars where I thought that the structural loads need to be taken. And I've actually, if you notice on top, I also have ceiling girders to hold up. They don't really hold up the ceiling, but it looks basically like a whole network of girders and lighting panel and the lighting and the lights. I've put those. Those are basically LED lights. They're segmented strips. And basically I've made little adapters. You can see one of the adapters right there to hold the lights. And the electricals go behind, inside, between the walls so you can't see them. So it's all nicely tucked in. So there's one light there I have, and then there's one light over here. And that basically lights up the train area really nicely. So this from the train yard, it goes to a switch, which goes to the main rail. And then what I do is there's a segment of the track that goes behind, and it sits on a bridge. So if I tip it up a little bit, you can see the bridge. And I'll kind of get behind there and I'll show you that. From the other side, I have a little crawl space there. This, you can see the train station, and this is the bridge. So as you can see, it kind of sits on the corner, gaps the table so the track can come around. It's a little bit more darker, but the track continues in the back there. And again, I have walls all along the tunnel walls, even in the back here. So you don't ever see the tracks overlap or through the walls. So it's like a true underground system. Then what I come up with is across another bridge on the other side of the gap. And you can actually see the electrical from the lighting there. And it goes across the second bridge. I'll pan up on it a little bit here. I had to cut a little bit of the support away on one side due to the actual physical support. And then it comes around to what I call my mini train station. This is kind of the train station for the amusement park. Now that I've crawled out of my little access port, here's the other side of the bridge. So now we come up to the wall. And then what I do have is I have a switch. And I have a little loop that goes into the in and around. It's kind of like a service port where they can service the trains. It basically just does an arc and comes out the other side. And it's fairly dark, because I don't have it lit up. I kind of left it to the imagination, so you can't quite see inside. So it kind of makes part of the illusion. Then we come around the main train station. And this train station, again, I'll get into the more details in part 2. This is the biggest of the 2 train stations, actually of the 3. Has a ticket booth, 3 ticket booths. Has a small convenience store, which sells coffee and all sorts of neat things, especially coffee, because everybody who's taking the train in the morning obviously wants coffee. There's a food court area. And then the second half where the train stops can stop too. And that includes a food court area, 2 concession stands. One's a pizzeria. The other one is I do meat themed fast food place. And of course washrooms, which are very important. And there's obviously one for men and one for women. And then there is a second staircase right here that leads upwards. As we come around, again, you can't see through all the tunnels, so I made it that way. So it looks like a continuous tunnel. We come around here. And I don't have any walls in this section because this is kind of like a cutout. The city actually would keep going. There's no gorge in this area. And this is where the arc comes around on the other side, that other switch. And it comes around here. And then it comes into circular pattern. So this is what one of the segments looks like. I pulled it out. I'll show you where I pulled it out from and how easy it is to put it in. Basically, each of the segments is built in with 2x6 bricks at the base, and at the top, and it's three 2x6 segments wide. Pretty much all the segments are like that. Some of them are 2 segments wide, and in between I used, if you look at the edge here, I used a one stud brick, light bluish gray, and I put some blue, 2 streaks of blue, which gives it a little bit of character and a little bit of color and splash of color, and doesn't just look like boring concrete and dark bricks. And then at the top I used 4x6 plates to represent part of the roof. And of course the roof would continue, but I just wanted to show a segment of it. And then also on the back I have just some bricks sticking out just for rigidity, so this keeps this whole thing rigid, so it doesn't bend or bow. I think that works well. Overall it's about 18 bricks high, which defines the station. And if you're wondering where I got it from, you can see the gap here. That's where it came out of, and basically it's fairly easy to put it in. All I have to do is line it up with the other one and just put it in, just rotate it in place. It gets a little harder to put in, not as easy, but it's reasonable. And then what I do is I just push it down to lock the Lego onto the base plate. And obviously here you see these 1x2 segments right here at the end. That just snaps onto the next plate. So what I would do is I would take those off, rotate it around, and then put them back, and that keeps it together at the top. So, and that pretty much keeps the whole rigid connection. And if you're wondering what the cost of something like this would be, I would suggest buying the bricks in bulk. You can sometimes get a really good deal on Bricklink. Or, as what I did, is I went to one of the 2 Lego stores that we have here, and I found it on the Pick-a-Brick bin. They actually had a lot of the gray and even the bluish, light bluish gray. These 1x3 segments, and a few of the 1x2s. So now that I've given a tour of the railway, I'm going to give a little bit of a still picture slideshow with a little bit of commentary, because I got a lot of pictures of how I built this before the table went on, so you can actually kind of see the splendor and the amount of actual bricks this took. Here's the original start of the Underground Railway, layout of the first train station, walls, start of the walls with the tracks, the turn with the start of the walls, the expansion, which included the train yard, the train station with no walls, now walls added, close-up of the walls on the edge of the curve, train station close-up with the columns and overhead beam structures, first time lit up, and the overall expansion lit up in the dark. So I hope you really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed presenting that. I'm really proud of my Underground Railway. It was fun to build, and I had a great time doing it. And hopefully you learned something, or you got something out of it, or inspires you to make your Underground Railway. Leave me some comments what you think of this video. And next time I'm going to do part 2, which is going to focus on the railway stations themselves. So until then, see you next time, and have a great day.